Good afternoon, and just wanted to share with you that I've started a new Bible study for myself, and that is in the book of Philippians. And Philippians is a terrific book because it's about joy. And the strange thing is that Paul is talking about joy, and he's in a Roman prison. Well, we'll talk about that maybe another day. But as he's writing the believers at Philippi, he makes a statement that is really quite astounding in the sense that many people, we may have people in our tongues, we may have people that we see with our eyes, but Paul says something really very encouraging to the people at Philippi, and I think it would be an encouragement to everybody we know. And he says this in verse 7, "It is right for me to feel this way about you all because I hold you in my heart." And you start to think, I hold you in my heart. What does that mean? Obviously, it shows love. It shows tenderness. But here he is in jail, and all he cares about are the believers there at Philippi. He has them in his heart. So what does it mean to have a person in your heart? Obviously, it means love. So how do we hold a person in our heart? And I thought about 7 things that we can do to hold a person in our heart. And of course, when we say hold in our heart, we're saying loving that person. And the first thing that Paul does, he says, "I thank my God upon every remembrance of you." In other words, we have people in our heart because we thank God for them. God has brought so many wonderful people in each of our lives. Do we thank God for those people? Well, that's what Paul does because he has them in his heart. Because he has them in his heart, he thanks God for them. But then there's also, he says, "And I pray always for you." When you have a person in your heart, not only do you thank God for them, but you pray for them. So many people in this world don't have anybody that prays for them. And you may be that special person. I try to think of several people that I pray for, and I wonder, am I the only person praying for that individual? And then also, when I think about putting people in my heart, not only prayer and thanksgiving, but I think of communication. Isn't that what Paul is doing here? He's taking the time to write a very lengthy letter, not lengthy in his day, but in our day. And he writes this letter in jail because he cares about people. When you care about a person, you communicate with them, you share time with them, you talk to them, you may drop a encouraging text to them. And then the fourth way that Paul had people in his heart is that he encouraged them. He said, "You know what? I am confident that God's going to keep working in your life, being confident of this very thing, that he which has begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ." In other words, he's encouraging the believers. I know you're going to keep growing. I know you're going to keep going for God. And people need encouragement. And the word encouragement means basically to put the heart in a person. There's a lot of people that have not a ministry, but they have something called discouragement. They take the heart out of a person. But Paul wasn't that kind of person. He encouraged people because he had them in his heart. Another thing that Paul did by having people in his heart was he shared God's blessings. Later on in chapter 1, he would share about how God opened the door for him to be a witness to many of those that were his own jailers and how many of them were saved. You know, when you have a person in your heart, you want to share the blessings of God that have come your way. And then also, when I think about that, is to meet the needs of a person. Matter of fact, one person's definition of love is meeting the basic needs of others without having as a motive my own personal reward. And so meeting the needs of others, whether it be financial, emotional, hospitality-wise, whatever. And then lastly is to sympathize. When we feel what other people feel. I know Paul understood what it was all about to face persecution, to face imprisonment. And we know that the Bible tells us that we're to rejoice with those that rejoice and weep with those that weep. And so Paul had the believers at Philippi in his heart. Do you have believers around you in your heart? Do you have your family members in your heart? Do you have church members in your heart? So what does it mean in your heart? That means to love them, thank God for them, pray for them, encourage them, communicate with them, share God's blessings with them, meet their needs, and sympathize with them. It really is very encouraging to hear when somebody says, I have you in my heart. May you have many people in your heart, and may you love them the way that the Apostle Paul loved those believers at Philippi. May God bless you today and tomorrow, the Lord's Day, and the day following.